We're exposing the rogue shops luring children into a world of exploitation and fear.
Young lady, listen to me.
You know I'm not 18, you know I'm 16.
In our latest report, a survivor speaks out about the man who targeted her obsessively from behind his corner shop counter.
She's a child, bro.
And the system that she says let her down.
Failure, and even more failure.
This is Kiera's story, abused by a shop owner who she says played the justice system and avoided jail despite targeting a child for sex.
I was loud, bubbly. I was with my friends every day, getting up to no good probably half the time, just being a child. I'm living my best life at that point. And then we finished school, had prom, and then that's probably where it went downhill.
Kiera Gee remembers the summer she was 16 years old, buzzing to leave school and bursting with teenage energy. Until she got to know the man who ran a local shop in Nottingham, where she went for cigarette papers.
I had the money and I went to go pay for them and he didn't take the money off me. And that was it, that's how it all started.
The shop owner was 56-year-old Indian national Hari Shankar. He did want something in return. He asked her for her number on the pretext she could order ahead. Kiera says he knew she had problems at home that made her vulnerable.
And after that, it was just constant harassment, constantly ringing me on her caller ID, texting me. I'd have to send him photos of where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. He'd give us drink, fags, he'd give me weed, lock me in his car, and lock me in his shop.
So why are you gonna kill me?
Highly obliged. You saved my life. Highly obliged. Thank you very much.
Shut up, go away.
Kiera is now 24. Back then, she was a teenager living in fear, overwhelmed by Shankar's messages, calls and threats.
Beautiful woman.
You know I'm not 18, you know I'm 16.
Before long, she says, the demands turned to sexual assaults.
And then it started with him in the back of the shop on like a tall, like a bar stool, kind of like that. And I used to go on that. And then the same in the back of his car. Nobody knew. My friends knew that something wasn't right because he was constantly ringing and calling and stuff, but nobody knew how far of an extent it was.
Channel 4 News has learned that Nottinghamshire police were alerted that Shankar was preying on Kiera.
Trying to give kids money, bro, to buy fags. She's a child, bro.
A local dad caught Shankar trying to get Kiera into his car and forcing her to take money.
Go away. I'm sending it to the police, bro. I'm giving this. I'm not.
The dad suspected Shankar of abuse. He says he reported it to the police and showed them the video. The outcome? No action taken. And Kiera left to suffer yet more harm.
It could have been 5 months sooner for me to get my closure and to not go through that every single day. I just used to smoke to try and forget it all.
One day she broke down and confided in her friends. This time her family told the police and Kiera says a waiting game began. In 2021, Shankar was charged with 2 offences of sexual assault and 2 of assault by penetration. The trial came finally in 2023, 5 years after the abuse started, but it didn't deliver the justice Kiera craved.
He played the system. He pled guilty to a lesser charge of paying for sexual acts off a child. So then he got a 2-year suspended sentence.
Kiera felt she had not been informed about the deal he struck. Now she's calling for a ban on abusers being offered lesser charges in cases of sexual offences against children.
Makes me feel like it was all for nothing. Made me feel like I was a prostitute.
Shankar avoided jail, with the court imposing a sexual harm prevention order banning him from working alone with girls. But a self-styled predator hunter found him working on his own in breach of the court order, and so he was finally sent to prison for 18 months in October last year. Kiera wanted the man who abused her to be deported back to India. But she says she was told Shankar was actually granted leave to stay in the UK despite being convicted for a sexual offence against a child. We checked with the Home Office, which said it couldn't comment on his immigration status.
It's wrong. It's wrong. He shouldn't have even been accepted. It should have been like a red flag. It should have been on the top of the list. But it wasn't. It was on the bottom of the list. How many more times has this happened?
The Home Office did tell us that Shankar will be pursued for deportation at the earliest opportunity once his sentence has been served. But no one had told Kiera, so we gave her the news.
We have got new information that Shankar is set for deportation when he comes out of prison.
Good. I feel like I can actually start to become myself again, because it won't be in the back of my mind because he'll be in another country. But it shouldn't be a news reporter telling me, it should be them. I think that's wrong.
Kiera is bringing a legal claim against Nottinghamshire police for failing to act sooner against Shankar. The force refused to comment while the process is ongoing. The Crown Prosecution Service said it recognised the impact the case has had on Kiera, and that any decision to accept a guilty plea is made following careful consideration of all available evidence. As Channel 4 News has revealed in a series of exclusive investigations, rogue corner shops, vape shops and mini-marts are a new front line in child sexual exploitation. It's been devastating for Kiera, who's trying to rebuild her life and is starting her own decorating business.
Oh, it's a mess with me. Proper mess with me. I'm doing, got therapy for PTSD at the minute. Sometimes I can't get out of bed. Yeah, it'll be a long road to probably get to back how I was feeling when I was a kid before it all happened, but I'm better than what I was.
Kiera's is a haunting story of abuse in the type of place many of us encounter each day. It's child exploitation on the high street, and for its victims, it's already spread way too far. Well, joining me now is Chrissy Malidi, the CEO of Equalities and Human Rights UK, which advocates for children's rights. Thanks for coming into Leeds.
Thank you for having me.
Many viewers may well be shocked that someone can be convicted of paying for the sexual services of a child and they can avoid prison. What's your reaction to what you've just said?
It's absolutely outrageous, isn't it, really? I mean, we're left with old legislation and narratives where children are being framed in terms of providing sexual services when, in fact, they're abused and exploited children. It needs changing rapidly.
Another of Kiera's concerns there was this practice of abusers being given deals, effectively, to lesser charges when they've committed sexual assaults potentially against a child.
And that, again, I mean, it's something that we've been campaigning for, asking that that gets changed, because it's absolutely outrageous that that can be done a plea bargain at this stage of a child being exploited and abused in that level of, complete trauma, terrified and abused beyond all recognition, really.
We've been investigating child sexual exploitation in rogue mini-marts and vape shops now for a series of reports. We've heard people tell us it's a new front line in child sexual exploitation. What do you say?
I would agree. I think there's an epidemic. From the work that we're doing across the whole of the UK, we're having feedback from families, from communities, identifying that it's across the whole of the 4 nations and that they're not being heard and listened to. Children are going into these areas and these shops and being exploited across the board in terms of being groomed, exploited, manipulated, and nobody's listening to them. So parents are having to take it into their own hands, are going in and arguing and trying to defend and take the children away from that type of exploitation.
And these are children and families you're hearing from directly?
Yes, that's right. And so are all the children's services across the UK. and different community groups are also hearing it, who are feeding it back into us, inequalities, and we're trying to make representation on that.
So across the UK right now, this exploitation is happening.
Yes.
In some of these rogue shops.
Yes. So mini marts and vaping shops particularly are a grave concern for us as well.
Do you think it's been taken seriously enough then by the authorities, by the police?
Well, we're hearing that it's been taken seriously. In some areas, what's been happening is some of the children who are being groomed into dealing, so they're not just in terms of being directly affected themselves, they're also being affected to groom other children and to deal the vapes and other things with them, to draw them into this sort of opportunistic or organised grooming episodes and hubs. What we're seeing is that people haven't been taking it as seriously as it can, but some places have been, and we need to be learning across the board. If I give an example, for example, give credit where credit's due, South Yorkshire Police, for example, are treating the children and young people who are caught in these grooming situations as children, as victims, groomed victims, where in other places they're prosecuting the children.
But how can it be in this day and age, given all that we know now about grooming, this part of the country especially? Do you think it's happening all over again?
I think it's starting to. We're seeing it rising. Since the vape shops particularly have come into fruition, we're seeing it happening over and over again. And illicit substances being put into the vapes as well. And people taking those are very young, from as young as 10, 11. We've had experience of having to advocate for those children who are going into schools and having, we're having to be called out to take them home because they're in a terrible state.
And just briefly, what do you tell parents and children in this situation?
Well, we would say you need to speak up. Everybody needs to come together to galvanise and take on these places, as well as to take on the state and the statutory services to do more than what they've been doing so far.
OK. Chrissy Malidi, thanks very much for coming in to speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And if you've been affected by any of the issues we've covered this evening, you can find links to organisations that offer support at channel4.com/support. And if you have any information about the issues raised in our report that you'd like us to look into, you can get in touch via our email, and many of you do, at c4investigations@itn.co.uk.